Good evening and welcome to the Gay Liberation Network on CAN TV. I'm Andy Thayer, and with me tonight is Bob Schwartz, also of the Gay Liberation Network. Tonight's topic, as you saw on your screen a few moments ago, is going to be LGBT people, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgendered people, and the current presidential election. Now, before we get into the topic, I want to stress that GLN is strictly nonpartisan. We're not going to be telling you who to vote for tonight. That's up to you and your own conscience. Whether you want to vote at all, that's up to you and your own conscience. But we will be examining the issues that, as they intersect with each of the campaigns. And Bob, why don't you kick it off in terms of what we expect perhaps to see next week up in the Twin Cities? How do you think lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people are going to be treated by the Republican Party?
Well, I don't expect that there will be good news in St. Paul during the Republican convention. John McCain is in support of a federal amendment. Not at this point, but he's open to the possibility of a federal amendment should there be more decisions like that of the California Supreme Court legalizing same-sex marriage. He has been opposed to the federal amendment, as is Barack Obama. But McCain and the Republicans, at least on paper, are more hostile to gay and lesbian rights than the other party has been. I don't expect any good news for gays and lesbians coming out of St. Paul. I don't expect any good news for women and their reproductive rights to be coming out of St. Paul.
Well, and I think it's interesting looking at McCain has always prided himself, or at least his handlers have, on his being the so-called straight talk express, and yet on gay and lesbian issues, you see some remarkable flip-flops. I mean, it used to be he was foursquare against a federal anti-gay constitutional amendment, and now he's opened himself up to it. He seems to be waffling, perhaps even on the issue of the California amendment in response to the religious right. And so I think the packaging needs to be examined for both the major presidential candidates, because you examine the reality versus the packaging, and I think the packaging just shows it up to be paper or whatever. It's really, people need to examine what these folks are actually saying and proposing, and examine that versus their previous positions. And I think you're seeing not very much straight talk out of either party these days.
Well, it's useful to point out, as we've done before on this program, that the court in California that legalized same-sex marriage is a mainly Republican court.
And the decision was authored by a Republican Chief Justice, and we had the same thing transpire in Massachusetts. It was Republican-packed court there that gave us equal marriage rights. So this whole notion that we're only going to get the right thing out of this or that party, I think, is shown to be fallacious. As awful as much of the Republican platform is, I think it's important to see, well, what has actually transpired. And the old adage that only Nixon could go to China also works in terms of LGBT issues. Often only a really right-wing outfit might have the political cover to do something like a California decision or a Massachusetts decision.
And it's useful to point out that in California and in Massachusetts, behind these court decisions, there was years of agitation by lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people and our allies in support of equality. I mean, we really raised hell out there, particularly in California. And the judges take notice of those things. They don't operate in a vacuum as they like to pretend, and as many people think. They pay attention to what's going on in the streets.
And even though you can credit the Democratic-dominated California legislature for passing a bill for equal marriage rights, and Democratic Mayor Gavin Newsom for inaugurating equal marriage rights for a period of time before he was shut down by lower sections of the courts, I think it is important to note that Newsom himself was reacting to heavy pressure when he just squeaked by in a mayoral election where he just barely beat a Green Party mayoral candidate who pulled something like 45% of the vote, truly putting a scare in the Democrats. I mean, can you imagine if Mayor Daley found a challenger who was able to pull 40 or 45% from any quarter, let alone the Greens? It would be an earthquake in this town, and yet that's basically what happened in San Francisco. Gavin Newsom and the Democratic Party in that city got the scare of their lives. And so shortly after winning his term, Gavin Newsom decided, well, I'm going to cut the legs out underneath the Green Party, and I'm going to initiate equal marriage in San Francisco. And we're glad that he did, but I think it's important to note that it was that pressure. Without that pressure, he wouldn't have done it. Bob, I think that we've seen some contradictory messages coming out of the Obama campaign. Could you explore that a little bit more?
Well, the main one is for gay and lesbian people is Obama's opposition to equal civil rights for gay people. Now, he's at liberty, as is anyone else, to frame marriage as a sacred institution. That's fine for his church, or for someone's synagogue, or for a mosque, but we're talking about a license that's issued by the state. This is a civil contract,
which all of us support with our tax dollars.
That's right. That's right. So I've been wearing a button here tonight, and on other occasions that says I won't vote for anyone who opposes our legal equality. And it's somewhat mystifying to me that there are several hundred gay and lesbian delegates to the Democratic Convention who won't even raise this issue.
Right. With their candidate.
Yeah, with their candidate. I mean, can you imagine Obama supporting somebody? Think about this. Obama supporting somebody who didn't support his right to vote? It wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
It wouldn't happen. And yet there are gay people supporting this man who doesn't support their rights. Now, I'm not advocating a vote for McCain. Don't get me wrong. But I just think this is an issue that needs to be addressed.
Well, it's an issue of legal equality, and the Obama campaign has tried to fudge it by saying, well, we're in favor of all the rights that would come with marriage. We're just not in favor of the right to marriage, which is essentially saying he favors separate but equal institutions for gay people, for lesbians, such as civil unions and whatever. Well, excuse me, Mr. Obama, Senator Obama, we know from the long history of the United States in terms of African Americans that separate but equal is never equal, and to try and fudge the issue is frankly offensive here in 2008. If there's nothing we learned from the civil rights struggles of the 1960s, it is that separate but equal is never equal for any group of people. And for you, as a former constitutional law scholar, a professor in constitutional law at the University of Chicago, to try to be pushing this, I won't say the word on the air, trying to be pushing this kind of nonsense in 2008 is offensive, and it's so demeaning that many in our community allow them to get away with it. Finally, I'd just like to say on behalf of Bob Schwartz, this is Andy Thayer, and thanks for watching the Gay Liberation Network on CAN TV.
Thank you.